It's been a while, hasn't it? Well, welcome everyone to my first ever review. Today we're going to be looking at Persona 5 Scramble. I will be reviewing the Japanese version. It's basically the same game, just terms may be different, so I apologize if it's different. I can't look into the future, so I'm not sure what terms are going to be used in the localization, so please bear in mind that I may be using different terms than what you've read or have read before, so I do apologize. But let's get right into it. There will be no spoilers in this review, as it states in the title. I will, however, be talking about the final boss, which is an important part of the review. But I will have a warning before I get to that part, so you guys could just skip in the video to avoid getting spoiled by the final boss. The first thing we're going to talk about is the story. Now, the story to a Persona game is very important. It's one of those things that many people talk about in the years after the release and how great it is, and it's probably something you've talked about when you try to recommend the series to someone you know. Sadly, Strikers, the story isn't that good. It's not bad, but it could be better. So the general gist of the story is Joker comes back for summer vacation 4 months after the original Persona 5 events happened. And there's a new app called Emma. This is basically the gateway between the the real world and the metaverse. And instead of palaces, they're now called jails, and they're kings on each jails that the Phantom Thieves have to stop or defeat in order for everyone in the populace or in that city to go back to normal. That's basically the general gist. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't want to spoil everything. All I'm going to say is a lot of these kings or monarchs, I think it's translated in the English version. All of these boss characters have almost no story and no screen time. The game wants you to feel sorry for them, or rather hate them and feel like they're taken advantage of, or they're taking advantage of the situation. And it kind of falls flat because all you hear from their story is they did X from people in the town, like spreading rumors or talking about them. And most of the time you kind of don't even meet them. You meet them maybe once, unlike the original Persona where you have time to, really meet the characters. You see the awful things they do, or there's a storyline, there's a plot relating to them, and they show you all the things they've done. In this game, they just say, she did X, or he did X, okay, go beat the bad. And through the palaces, or the jails rather, you learn a little bit more about their desires and why they did it, but it's like, I don't care. Just let me go to the next one and hopefully it gets better, or let me get to the end game and see what's up. It's just these characters are really forgettable, and honestly I only remember like 3 of them. It's really disappointing because I thought the big bads were gonna be like so interesting in this game because of all the freedom they have and the action gameplay, but honestly all these characters are just kind of boring. Now the story itself is kind of short. It's about 35 hours to 30, 40. I'm going to put 30 to 40 hours range. It took me about 33 hours. That's with translating text that I didn't understand from Japanese to English. So that probably padded my time out a bit, but the game itself is really short and the story kind of falls flat in the middle, because if you're paying attention, you could tell who the big bad is and who's behind everything. And you can see that obviously because they keep spoon feeding you information, and it's really obvious at a certain point. There's nothing to like look forward to the end, because by the time you get to that point, you already know what's happening. They already spoon fed it to you throughout the whole game, and it's kind of dumb to me, but it's whatever. The story itself it's okay. It's nothing that I'll talk about when I recommend the game. I'll probably tell them about the gameplay, which I will be talking about soon, which is fantastic. The one thing I really love about this game is the character interactions. They interact with each other like they knew each other for years. Now, I know the whole game is a sequel to Persona 5, so obviously, but the thing is, they just made these character interactions even better. This is something I wish Persona 5 did, how, Haru talks to Ryuji more, or Morgana talks to Goro more, like, etc., etc. In this game, everyone talks to each other. They have their own personality. They're really fun. They have one of the best scenes in the games and in all the series to me. It's just every time there's like a gag scene, it made me crack up. And honestly, I really wish Persona 5 did this. But this is one thing that Scramble did right. and it's worth it. All these extra scenes that you think are just, boring, hot tub, no, they're really funny, and I personally enjoyed those more than the actual. Now, to continue from the character interactions, let's talk about Wolf and Sophie. These two characters are new additions to the Phantom Thieves. If there's one thing I'd show for this game, it's these two characters. These two characters play fantastic. They're fun. They're like borderline broken. It's not even just their gameplay, it's their story, how they interact with the Phantom Thieves. They have so much focus in this game that they're basically both the main characters. I was more invested in Sophie than Wolf's story, that it made up for whatever I disliked about the main story. During the middle of the game, I wasn't interested in how the game was gonna end. I was interested in how these two stories would be resolved. Sophie is basically a robot. She just knows that her goal is to protect humanity or be friends with them, and little by little she gains a little bit of humanity during the game. It's the typical AI story, but it's just done very fantastic. Now, I don't want to spoil Wolf's story because I don't believe any trailers really talked about him, so I won't go into his story. All I know is he's one of my favorite Persona characters in all the Persona games. He's really well done. I felt bad for him at the end. I felt bad for him during the story. And these two characters are really, their focus is always on them. Almost everything you do is always related to them, and it's kind of amazing how they did these two stories very well, but they couldn't do the boss stories like any justice. But these two characters really saved the game for me. They carried this game really hard for me. Now let's talk about the real reason you're here. The gameplay. The gameplay is nothing like Dynasty Warriors, for those wondering. It's air quotes Muso game. I would classify it as a hack and slash mostly. It's nothing like Devil May Cry. It's unique in its own sense. Each character has a unique playstyle. Like Ryuji is the charge character. He takes a while to use his attacks, but his damage is really good. Yusuke counters a lot of moves during his strings, so that's cool too if you're a counter master. Joker is obviously like the best of the best because he could use any personas. He's really fast. His gun is overpowered. I'll be touching on that later, but the gun is really broken in this game. So Koei Tecmo really put an emphasis on these combo strings because at the end of these combo strings, for the most part, they always have like a skill relating to the persona that you have equipped. So for Joker, if you use Alice, for instance, and you do like triangle, triangle, square, 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 she does concentrate. This really doesn't use SP. It doesn't use SP at all, but it is a weaker version. I believe for buffs, it just lasts less. And for like, if you do Bufu at the end, it does like probably like 1/4 of the damage, something small. But yeah, they really put an emphasis on this because boss battles require you to continuously use these combo strings if you don't want to waste all your SP pots, which is important in early game and later game when you're doing like these tanky bosses. These bosses could last forever, so it's a smart thing to actually do these strings. And honestly, on paper, this is a good mechanic because I don't have to keep using SP to just take out like Jack Frost. I could just use a string, and at the end of it, hopefully they'll be broken and you can all out attack. For dungeons or jails rather, this is really useful because you save your SP, and when you all out attack, you can get a skill to recover SP. So basically, you're hitting their weak points without any cost, and during early game, your SP bar is like 2. So this is really a must if you want to tackle the harder difficulties, and it's something you should master regardless of what difficulty you're in. Now, one of the last few things I want to touch upon is the music. The music is my favorite in the series. The remixes to all the Persona 5 songs that they've made are fantastic. As many of you may or may not know, I hated Last Surprise in Persona 5. I bought the DLC in the Japanese version like 2 days after I got the game because I could not stand that song. But in this game, from the tutorial level, when they played that remix of Last Surprise, I was shaking my leg. I was like, oh, why couldn't this be the original? I love this song. Each song later on in the game, it really hits the impact of the boss battles, the fights you're in. It's really amazing, and I cannot stress this enough. If there's a soundtrack, get it. If there's an American soundtrack, get it. If there's a vinyl or whatever, get it. This soundtrack is fantastic, and it's probably one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time. Now that I'm done discussing the main parts about the game, I'm going to be talking about the smaller things that I couldn't really fit in any of these sections. So the first thing I want to talk about is the camera. During gameplay, this camera is RNG. This is the final boss. If anything, this is what you're going to struggle with more. Sometimes a lot of enemies will group up on you in the corner, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. You cannot pan the camera upwards or downwards to get above a bird's eye view. No, you'll be clipped into the wall and you cannot see anything except for attacks and your health going down. There's nothing you can do. In this clip I'm going to show you, this is the first boss. You can see I'm on the hardest difficulty, and this camera, it just does not want to work. So basically when you lock onto this boss, this is the first boss by the way, and it's not a spoiler because you've probably seen it already, but the boss likes to do this rolling wheel cart move at the corner. It starts from the corner usually and goes to the corner. So if you're even near that corner when this stupid attack starts, good luck. Good luck, because as you can see here, I died and I literally had no chance of responding to this because I just happened to be positioned the wrong way when they start, and it's nothing I could have avoided. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the personas. The persona amount in this game is so low. I am actually disgusted by how many personas they added in this game. They cut out maybe, I'm gonna say 40-30% of the actual persona count in Persona 5, and even more if you compare it to Royal. But this selection of personas is probably the worst in any game whatsoever. I'm not counting the dancing game by the way. There's no variety. This persona selection offers no variety whatsoever. If I show you gameplay of my end game in my first run, this will not differentiate you from the other YouTubers that are gonna be posting the same gameplay. We're gonna probably have the same personas, the same skills, the same stats. There is nothing different about this. At least in previous Persona games, you can meme and have Arsene or your first Persona. You can have like Jack Frost meme runs. In this game, you can't do that. This game is dependent on the moves that each Persona does and their combo strings. So if you want to use Arsene, you can 99 max stats him, but the strings he does is so weak because they're base curse moves or their base physical moves, and they're so weak compared to the later ones or the more powerful personas that there's almost no reason for you to use it. Even if you're memeing, these boss fights, if you try to do an Arsene run, will take about an hour and a half because he's so weak, and unless you spam like SP attacks, there's no point in using him. Even in Merciless Challenge mode, or whatever it's called in the Japanese version, just there's no point. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I do Arsene only runs, but in this game it's almost impossible unless you want to tear your hair out with how long each fight will last. Also, you can't teach any of your personas absorb skills. Isn't that great? So the one thing I do really like about this game is the addition of persona points, or PP rather in the Japanese version. Basically, when you get a dupe of a persona you already have, you get persona points. And these are RNG drops like in the original Persona games, all Persona games. You use these points to raise the stats of any persona you want. This is a great way to do it because you could be level 1 with 99 all stats. As you can see here, my Arsene, which will never be used because sadly this game doesn't allow for that. But yeah, it's really cool. I wish other Persona games had this, the mainline ones. I hope it's carried on to the future ones because honestly, RNG stats are probably the worst thing about this game, about the series. One thing I don't like about the game in general is the calendar system. The calendar system serves no purpose except for telling you when the game's gonna end or how close you are, because it does not matter whether you get out of a jail or not mid run. There's no penalty to doing so, so you could just go to like every save point. You could just get out of the jail unless you're forced to continue on, where they don't allow you to get out. But the calendar system just does not matter. There's no penalty for like clocking out early, which is something I wish it would have done. Extend the dates a little bit, but the whole game takes place like in 2 months, which is short because usually it's like 9 months and then they'll skip. But whatever, this counter system is useless. It's just basically to track when unmissable side quests are or when the game's gonna end, and I just wish they did more with it. Another thing I want to touch upon is the artificial difficulty. Now, I started a run on the hardest difficulty. I don't remember what it's called in Japanese, but it's the merciless run. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes is the level of each enemy you fight. You start off at like, I think Jack Frost, and the tutorial fight is, or not Jack Frost, Jack-o'-lantern is 70. And all enemies could just one-shot you or two-tap you, or they could stun lock you, and it's just artificial difficulty. In Devil May Cry 5, the higher you get on the difficulty, the more aggressive they get. Their attack patterns change, they get new moves. In this game, everyone just gets the HP and level buff and an attack buff, while your stats basically go down. You barely do damage to simple enemies. It's kind of like if you play Neo 2, every enemy could just two tap you. It's kind of just dumb. But at least in Neo 2, their attacks are different and they get new stances and stuff. But in this game, it's just the same game, just more HP. Ooh. And the wardens in this game, which is basically the boss before the main boss, the main jail boss, they are the most annoying bosses in the game. These are harder than the main line bosses. These are such HP towels, I want to say, because they soak up so much damage and it's so boring. These fights are so tedious. They have constant respawning of enemies, always on the field, so they just drain your SP. Each enemy can one-shot you at higher difficulties. They can stun lock you, and these warden bosses are just very badly designed. They're not even fun. At first, it was like, okay, cool, yeah. But as you get on later in the game, it just gets really repetitive, and it's like, do I really want to finish jail now? Because I have to face this stupid warden. They're just so boring, and they don't even have an interesting design. I mean, their attack, it's basically the same boss, just different skills each time, like different attacks. But even the final warden, it's just a combination of each boss previously. I mean, each warden boss previously, and that's not even a spoiler, because fuck these warden bosses. These are the worst part of the game. Almost one of the worst parts of this game. Now let's get to the performance part of this game. This game runs really well on the PS4 Pro at frame rate mode. There's two modes in this game. There's frame rate mode and movie mode. Or no, graphics mode, sorry. In graphics mode, it's the resolution is up. There's anti-aliasing, and you're locked at 30 frames. So basically Persona 5. In frame rate mode, you're locked at 60. But you could obviously see in the resolution difference and the quality in graphics really goes down, and it's kind of bad. It looks really bad. I can't imagine it on the Switch. I played the demo on the Switch and it looks awful. So on PS5 mode, graphics mode runs the same as frame rate mode. It's 60 frames per second, but it looks much better. And that is probably the console to go to if you're getting it on console, but obviously PC is the best choice if it runs well. There are some drops here and there when there's a lot of enemies on screen and some boss fights, but it doesn't go down to like 20. It goes down to like maybe 50, 51. You could obviously see, but it's not game breaking. It's just really annoying sometimes because you're trying to dodge and it kind of eats your input. And the higher difficulties, that could mean life and death, but it's whatever. I mean, it's a really nice game. I really like the way it looks. All the jails look nice. I mean, the frame rate isn't really a problem to me, but it could be to others. Another thing I want to touch upon is the gameplay simplicity. This game is really simple. There's nothing to it. You unlock combo strings during the game, but once you unlock all of them, you basically can go to end game and basically just use your personas, and that's it. The game just consists of spamming skills until it breaks, the shields break, and you just all out attack on bosses. That's it. Now that's how it was in the original Persona games, but in this case, you want more difficulty because it's a hack and slash. You want to be flashy, you want to do some nice combos, but this game has none of that. Every gameplay you're going to see from YouTubers is probably going to have the same personas, like I said before, and the same game style. And the constant menu switching and personas, when you switch personas, is immersion breaking. These menus last forever. There's no simplicity in these menus. I really wish there was a way to like assign shortcuts so you don't have to go to the menu, you could just do the skill. It's just really immersion breaking. Like, you could be having a nice boss fight and then all of a sudden, apparently Joker's deal now, he could stop time and it'll stay stopped. It won't even go in slow motion. You just stop time until you pick a skill or you exit out of the Persona menu. Yeah, I just really wish they had more combo options, more freedom, because kind of once you get into a string, you're kind of locked into animation. You could Persona cancel, which I may have a tutorial up later, but it's kind of simple. Just use its Persona before right when the skill goes out during your combo strings, and you cancel the animation. That's it. Basically, it just feels like you're locked into the string. There's no real freedom in combos you could do. You can't combo with your teammates, which is kind of weird because that's basically what the game should be. You know, being with your teammates, comboing from them, and continuing damaging. But whatever. I should really wish there was more to the gameplay, but it is what it is, and the gameplay is alright overall. It's nothing to write home about though. Now be warned, I will be talking about the last boss after this, so just skip to the time on screen and you'll skip these spoilers. The final boss is very disappointing, and this is coming from someone who likes the final boss of 4, which many people seem to not like. This boss is a stationary target. There's 4 panels you move across. When you see an attack, just move to the next panel. When you see an attack, move to the other one. It's very simple. It is disappointing. There's no threat here. It seems like they just really just didn't care at this point. Leading up to this boss fight, the previous ones, they were the best ones in the game, and somehow they just didn't try at this point. They kind of saw everything. They're like, yeah, this is good enough. Like, I understand it's a big god or demon, whatever, and like all Persona games, it's always huge. It's always like 9 times, 20 times larger than you. But they could have done so much more. They could have done it like Shadow of Colossus, where you run up its armed and attack it. But no, they decided to take the lazy route and just 4 panels, go around it. In fact, it's so disappointing that you can glitch it, or rather not glitch it, but exploit it. As you can see on the screen, I'm just riding on the rails, attacking it twice, doing a skill, then going to the next panel, and then it'll just continuously try to catch up with the player and try to switch panels to face you, but it just doesn't have enough time because it's so slow, so you could just get free damage, and it's just really disappointing. I mean, there's one point in the boss fight where you have to use everyone, but even then it's kind of dumb. It's not very interesting. I was hoping that maybe, I don't know, you could have like this one-on-one with this beast and have like an epic fight with it, but it's just really disappointing. I really wish they did something better. This is probably like, once I beat the boss, I was like, wow, is that it? I really hope something comes out like a 1v1 like Sephiroth and Cloud, where just this god comes and just tells Joker to fight him. But no, this was terrible. And just for that, I'll take like 2 points off the initial rating, because this was really something I was looking forward to and seeing how they did do it, but this was just so disappointing. Well, my final rating for this game would be, I would say, a 78% out of 100. Obviously, the story isn't that great, but Wolf and Sophie are probably my favorite characters of all Persona series. They really did them well. The gameplay is nothing to really talk about, but it is fun. It is enjoyable. I think many people will like the gameplay. It's simple. You could mix and match Personas, but it's kind of restricted in terms of what you can do and how you can use the skills and what persona you use. The character interactions are really well done. Everyone gets their screen time. Everyone like really adds to the group. It feels like you're there. You're laughing with them. You're laughing at them. You're feeling sorry for them, etc., etc. It's really one of my favorite parts about this game. And the music is the best in the series. I cannot get enough of Counter-Strike, honestly, and Rivers in the Desert. But overall, the game is pretty solid. I think everyone would enjoy it. There are obviously some flaws. I've been vocal about my dislike for this game, but after replaying it on the PS5, I gave it another shot, and it was pretty good. I won't lie. I liked it better the second time, but again, I just wish it was harder. I wish there was more personas that I could choose from. I wish the gameplay was more complex or not so restrictive, but what can you do? the game overall is really fun, and hopefully the voice actors for the English release does it justice. I hope you guys enjoy this video because it's one of my first reviews I've ever done. If you guys have any questions, just let me know in the comments. If you have feedback on what I can do better next time, because I do plan on doing more if this works out, please let me know in the comments. I will take each feedback to heart. I'll try to improve next time. Make it shorter, I don't know, make it longer maybe, I don't know, stop talking shit. But regardless, please leave feedback. If you guys are new, please remember to subscribe. To those people that are just finding out that I'm back, as many of you may know that I got my channel terminated a few months back because of Sega. It wasn't even due to my main channel, it was due to my secondary channel. They nuked it and YouTube just slapped me in the face and said, nope, you're not getting access to the original channel if you don't fight those strikes in the secondary channel. And the funny thing is, I did not have my password and they didn't let me log in, so I couldn't fight it. So I ripped my channel. So if you guys want to support me, just make sure to subscribe. I'll be giving out a Persona 5 Strikers copy tomorrow, whenever the English releases. I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this, but I'll be streaming on release for English. I'll be speeding through the game and I'll be giving away a copy. So if you guys have any feedback, any suggestions on what I should do next, please let me know. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you for viewing the video to the end. Peace.